about tomorrow. Thank you, Jesus. Let me tell you something. If we don't ever get together down here, it'll be sad. But thank God I'm not worried about it. No, no, no. Listen, one of these mornings it won't be long. You're gonna look for Jesus, and I'll be gone. I'm going up to heaven to sing and shout, and nobody there is gonna put me out. I'll look up David in the heat of the day and tell him to grab his harp and begin to play. I know my road is gonna fit me well, 'cause I tried it on when I was going to hell. Mama, praise the Lord. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Praise the Lord, everybody. Praise the Lord. Good evening. Sorry I'm late. I'm late for a reason. Just got back watching an unfair situation. Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy. So, the three main African American clergy groups, Baptist Ministers Union, Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance of Savannah, Alliance of Clergy, got together and decided to have a forum, which is good. I thought that was a good thing for them. And Dr. Jones must have been watching it on something, because she said, Miss Davis was put in as a spoiler, you're right, to try to get some of the votes that won't be going to Van to not go to Keisha. And so there you go. Well, in any case, we're here. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I'm just getting back from this forum, and the hits just keep on coming. After 3 years, after 3 years and 9 months, I really am astonished that Keisha, Bernetta, and Alicia hasn't just lost all kind of control. People keep saying, well, you know, they need to act more civilly, they need to have more decorum. But when you get openly and obviously treated unfairly, Thomas Sills has long ago, Bishop Sills has long ago said he didn't care for Keisha and that he favors Van. First of all, he should never have been the moderator. He should never have been the moderator. It is true, Connors Temple owns the Con Ed building. It is true that he is the president of the Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance. Those things are true. What's not true is that you should then, if you've already declared your position, moderate the affair. Okay, you need an independent moderator. That's first thing. Secondly, you need to moderate it fairly. So they had a group up when I got there. I didn't realize they started at 3 o'clock with the District 2 people.
And poor Dietrich Leggett, showed up again in a bulletproof vest. This is the second or third place that I know that I've been made aware of. That since we pointed out to people that he did not live where he put on his qualifying documents for the second district seat, I live in that house. When we went there, and we have it on tape, and I'm as I do more shows, but this is going to be a short show because I got some other things I got to do. But when we were there, we met over there. We called the press. Press came. The newspaper was there. The TV people were there with cameras. And he drove up while we were having a press conference and letting them know he does not live in this house that he put on his documentation, which means his qualifying documents have a lie on them. Therefore, he's disqualified to run for that office. As a matter of fact, right now, he's disqualified to be on council because he does not live in the district. He lives in Linda's district. He has other papers that he put another address on in the district, filing his financial reports. So in any case, he doesn't live there. Now, how do I know? We did our homework. We actually put eyes on where he lives. At times he was there. But but let me go back to the little form they had. So when they had the candidates for the seat that Keisha has vacated in order to run for mayor, they had about 6 of those candidates up there tonight. And my candidate, Rashida Edwards, was among them. And she was sitting at the far left. If you're sitting in the audience, she was at the far left. And they would start with her on the question, on the issue, and then they go to the other end, and then they would start with the other end, and then they go back. So Pastor Sills decided, when it was Keisha Gibson Carter, Miss Davis, who was the third candidate running for mayor, many of you may not have heard of. There are 3 candidates running for mayor. Miss Davis and Mayor Van Johnson. So he asked the question. Now Van is sitting next to him, and Keisha's on the other side of him, and the other lady's on the other side of Van. So he has Keisha go first, then he has the other lady go first, which means he stepped past Van. Then he has Van come last. So Keisha allows him to do that for 2 questions, having been in the room while he rotated it on the last group. So when he asked the 3rd question, she said, wait a minute. It's not that I can't answer these questions, but it's not fair for me to always go first, because then they get to answer, off of my answer. And he basically said, well, we're going to do it like this. And I'm like, you had to. And he did it arrogantly. He said it arrogantly, and he insisted that he would not make the order fair. And he didn't. Now listen to me very carefully. That's the same kind of unfair thing that's been going on in City Council. For those of you who didn't see it, you can go to Alicia Miller Blakely's page on Facebook, and you'll see that what I'm telling you is the truth. But even beyond that, you'll also see that the mayor, oh Lordy, that the mayor just lies. He don't have to practice. He just flat foot lies. It's a shame, but it's the truth. Man, just lie. He lied about the home statistics in the city of Savannah. He just lied. He lied about crime. And he lied about the fact that he has kept them from putting anything on the agenda for 3 years and 9 months. He has not allowed 3 elected officials to put anything on the agenda at all. Not one proposal. When he was first elected, he changed the rules of council so that it would take 5 people to allow anything to be put on council. Now remember, Van had served 4 terms on council already. That's right, Dr. Jones, which means we had no representation. He took away the strength of our votes. He became a tyrant, and is. It will be obvious to everybody before I'm finished. Make sure you understand that. But Thomas Sills did to Keisha Gibson Carter the same thing that Van Johnson does to Keisha Gibson Carter. He changed the rules. He made it unfair in the favor of Van. It's the same thing that people did for Donald Trump during his administration. Just change the rules. Van Johnson is an autocrat. It's really, it's just that simple. We've got a little over a month to the election, and 3 months before we'll have a new mayor. And it will be a new day in Savannah. No question about it. I'm not going to be on long because I got work. We're scheduled to go to court in Brunswick, Georgia, for the same offense, which is illegal, that the city of Savannah has perpetrated upon its homeless people. If any of you know of any other people who are homeless that were displaced from under the bridge on President Street, if any of you know of any of those people personally that were forcibly moved by the city of Savannah, let them know we may have some money for them. We actually know that they broke the law. The city of Savannah broke the law in moving those homeless people from a public place. Now, how do you know that? Because we're going through a suit similar to that, and of course I had to do some research because I'm helping the homeless people in Brunswick, which the city of Brunswick, who has a mayor named Johnson, not Van Johnson, his name is Cosby Johnson, and he's basically just like Van. One other thing I want to note for you, and like I said, I can't be long, but this is the first time in the history of the city of Savannah that we don't have a white person running for mayor. You notice that? This is the first time in the history of the city of Savannah that we don't have a white person running for mayor. Now, that's not a racist statement. It's a racial statement. It's not racist. A little different. Now, why do you think all of a sudden no white person decided to run for mayor? the powers that be, the good old boy system, obviously did not feel like they needed a candidate to run against Mayor Johnson. Now they're running somebody against Alicia Miller Blakely. She's gonna beat the bricks off him, but that's another whole thing. But the point I'm making is, and I know the guy, I know Patrick Rossiter, but we're not gonna have anything if he wins. Dr. Jones says they do not have to run when they can get what they want from those in charge. Well, the other thing you need to, oh man, I should have had a picture of that thing. I had to run in this evening. I couldn't prep right. I had to go down to that forum. Y'all know I don't do a lot of that kind of thing, but I had to go down to the forum. And so, I wanted to show you all a flyer of a fundraiser for Van, and then a fundraiser for Patrick Rossiter. And it's got the same people on it. Now, the other thing you need to understand is, besides the same group of white money folks, movers and shakers, good old boys, on that same flyer you got Otis Johnson, Edna Jackson. Wait a minute, watch this. Supporting, now watch this. Van Johnson. All these are the sponsors. Otis Johnson, Edna Jackson, Van Johnson. For Rossiter, Eddie DeLoach. What? When I was reading the thing, I said, huh? What? Eddie DeLoach. And he's listed with Otis and Edna and what did I miss something? What's going on with that? Where did that come from? Too often, we don't see what's going on in the background. Too often, we don't know how we are getting had. Too often, we don't realize that we are actually in the middle of a conspiracy. A conspiracy that's deep-rooted. A conspiracy where folks have gotten together and decided to dice us up, pass us out among themselves. On March 2nd and 3rd in 1859, they sold us in small groups, sometime one at a time. They bought us individually in a lot of cases. In 2023, they bought one of us, and they expect to get the rest for free. Talking to someone the other day, I think it was a little bit under $200,000 that DeLoach raised when he ran for mayor 4 years ago, which was at the high watermark for mayor's office. They really, really, really wanted to defeat Edna Jackson. But now Edna Jackson, Otis Johnson, and Van Johnson, and Eddie DeLoach are on the same flyer together supporting Rossiter. Duh. What? Really? Yeah. And the powers that be, the good old boys, the movers and shakers, the chambers, Cedar, and everybody else, all those people who have profited the most, while they're taxing us through the nose, have given Van R. Johnson II $500,000, $500,000 or more. Now we're about 37 days, 38 days from the election. And Van's shrewd. Boy, Van is smooth. He is. He just, even when you ain't no good, you know, you can look at no good and go, wow, boy, that show is no good. You could be an expert at no goodness. Does anybody believe that Van's spending on his campaign at the tune of $500,000? If Van wins with the money, if Van wins and don't spend the money, he's gonna walk off. Keep the money. If he loses and don't spend the money, he's gonna walk off with the money. John McMaster says, since Miss Davis was put up to harvest female votes, she may well have been, because she's up there. And you know, she may very well be a nice lady, but she ain't got a clue. I may as well run for the Supreme Court if she's gonna run for mayor. And come on, man. Oh, have mercy. Come on, darling. No, don't do that. No, she's just, we're talking need not apply. And you're right, she's going to try to drain off some of the, put in there to harvest female votes and some black women vote. So anyway, but listen, I believe that Keisha Gibson Carter may very well win on the first ballot. I know, John, you don't feel like that, but you feel like it's much tighter than that, or might not be that at all. Well, that's all right. We'll see. You and I have been disagreeing and working together, and sometimes working on different campaigns for now for 30, 40 years. Let's just keep on doing it. Now, I want to tell you all about a couple of things. Let me see. I want to tell you that it's on the 3rd, I believe it is. So on Tuesday the 3rd, I'm in court defending my efforts to help the homeless in Brunswick, Georgia. Like I was saying, the city of Savannah, in moving those people from under the bridge on President Street, actually broke the law. There was a case, Martin versus Boise, as in Boise, Idaho, that went to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and then Boise tried to get that ruling overturned at the United States Supreme Court. And because the United States Supreme Court did not grant certiorari, in other words, they refused to hear the case, then the ruling of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals stands. And since it's a federal court, it becomes precedent for the entire nation. So for those of you who do a lot of reading like I do, and I'm just curious, look up Boise versus Martin versus Boise. Martin, like a regular Martin, Martin, versus Boise, Boise. And you find out that the city of Savannah had no right, because when a city does not have adequate public housing for the homeless, then the homeless have every right to be on any public property. Cannot be roused, cannot be told to move on, cannot be given citations or arrested. The police displacing those people out there in a police action was illegal. Amen. And John McMaster, who was there tonight, said he had the nerve to say he's brought more celebrity politicians to Savannah than has ever visited Savannah. And then what? And what does that mean? What did we get for it? What did we get for it? He also said that he got a commitment over the next, I think he said 8 years for $6 million to care for and help and aid the people in need near the waterfront area, near the ports, which would obviously be West Savannah, Hudson Hill, Woodville, okay? But then he didn't put the money in anybody's hands where the money's going to get to us. It's like the money that came down from the federal government to help disadvantaged businesses during COVID, and 95% went to white businesses in a city that was 58% African American. And it went to those businesses without them applying for it. Even though they said they were going to open the window for applications on a Monday, and Monday morning when people got there, the money was gone. Money was already gone. And that's how he's ruled. Lastly, and this is an aside, on last week we gave to the clerk of city council, Mr. Mark Massey, a letter and 2 affidavits declaring that that Dietrich Leggett does not live in the 2nd district, that he actually lives in the 3rd district, which is Linda's district, and that he shouldn't be on council, much less he shouldn't be running for council. One of the things that I detest is when people deal with me or talk to me as if I'm a fool. And one of the reasons it bothers me, because I know if they do it with me, then they've used these tactics on less capable, less competent people. So we turned in a letter to the city clerk of council, and we turned in the document, this document that Dietrich filed. You can see it on August the 21st, 2023, and he said he was living at 649 East 38th Street. Well, on this date and every date since, students, mostly from SCAD, we know at least 3 SCAD students. There were 4 students living in the house, and at least 3 of them went to SCAD. One of them, when we approached the house, said to us in plain, we didn't put his picture up because we didn't want to embarrass him and use his image unreasonably, but we talked to him, and you could hear him in the background. And he basically says, no, Dietrich does not live here. Only 4 students live there, including him, and they had been there for a protracted period. Well, we called the press, and the press came out, and we had a neighbor from across the street, as it happened. You know, the Lord do some strange things. As it happened, my brother, my actually oldest brother, blood brother, lived directly across the street and has lived in that house for 30 years. And so, and he says, as long as he's been there, Dietrich has never lived in that house. Ever. So, as long as he's been there. Now, maybe before he got there, but definitely not in the last 30 years, and definitely not in the last few months. Well, the press came, news people came. We gave the interview. We told them that we turned the documents into the clerk of council. We told him, we introduced him to my brother who said he didn't live there. While we were there, Dietrich drove up. Dietrich drove up in the truck that we have pictures of him with that truck at his house, at his real house, at night. And we have a video, 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, thereabouts, to say, look, this is where the man lives. Now, the fact that he lied makes you know. Somebody said, well, you shouldn't have gone all to the man's house. Well, if he'd been lying this long, then we would have to have some proof. And so we got some. We didn't invade his house. We didn't knock on his door, talk to. We just saw where he lives. To prove where he lives, there it was. So that was that. Now, having said that, so while we're there, somehow Dietrich finds out we're there, maybe online or something of that nature, because he came and he was still in his work clothes. So he comes up, the news people walk over to him, try to talk to him. We are still in the driveway next door. Nobody approaches Dietrich from our group. Nobody. Dietrich walks up, waves his key in the air so people can see. See, I got my key, and he goes in the house. They go up and knock on the door and try to talk to him, and he won't. And for about 40 minutes, maybe an hour, he doesn't let them talk to him. Ultimately, he opens the door. They go in. They talk to him. They come out. I asked the lady, did he say he lives there? And she said, yeah, he said he lives there. Okay. So now we got our proof. And we got another lie. Now, for him to lie on this form, for him to lie on the form that I just showed you, is a crime. Let me get me some glasses so I can read it to you. Because it's good to know exactly. And so, at the bottom, just above his signature, it says, I understand that any false statement knowingly made by me on this notice of candidacy and affidavit will subject me to criminal penalties as provided by law, and I hereby request you to cause my name to be placed on the ballots to be used in such election as a candidate for the office I am seeking. Remember that what it says? That signing this notice will subject me to criminal penalties as provided by law. So, not only have we turned that into the clerk, but we're forwarding it to the district attorney, Board of Elections, Secretary of State's office for the state of Georgia. We went through an entire year, almost 2 years now, well, right at 2 years now, of a president, 3 years, President Trump been out of office. Election fraud was the mantra. Rigging of an election was the mantra from an entire national political party. if Dietrich Leggett is still allowed to be on council and vote on issues, when you have a prima facie probable cause based on written statements, signed and notarized affidavits, then we have allowed a crime to take place in our community. But as I was telling you, Mr. Massey sent me a letter saying he was dismissing this challenge because of the language provided in OCGA 21-2 6B. And that language is, within 2 weeks after the deadline for qualifying, an elector who is eligible to vote for such candidate may challenge the qualifications of the candidate by filing a written complaint with the superintendent giving the reasons why the elector believes the candidate is not qualified to seek and hold the public office for which the candidate is offering. Okay, that is. He typed that correctly. He lifted that directly from the code section. See that right there? See, that's the code section. Within. But you notice when it says OCGA 21-2 6B, that means there's an A and there might be a C. Well, as it turns out, there is an A and a C. And the A says that the superintendent of elections is qualified by law to look into and make sure that a candidate is qualified. He is the person supervising the election. He is the superintendent of that election. That means he's overseeing the election. And when he gets probable cause, and probable cause is established with 2 witnesses on signed, notarized affidavits, he has an obligation, he has a fiduciary obligation looking over that election to investigate. And all he has to do to investigate is go to the neighborhood, knock on 3 or 4 doors. That's all he's got to do. The people know who lives in that house. But if he doesn't get off his rusty dusty and go, then he has breached his authority and his fiduciary duty to oversee that election. It's a breach of obligation. And for those of you who are particular about money, fiduciary is not just money. And those of you who are linguists and say, well, no, they're talking about no money. No, it's more than money. It's accounting. Giving a good account. Hey, them. If you get a chance, go back and pull up the whole section. It is 21-2-6. You could just put the word law. I just put Georgia. 21-2-6. And read the whole thing. The election superintendent, which is what the clerk of council is for this election, has a right to disqualify him all the way up to the day of the election. Because in it, watch this, in that code section it says, that if he finds out that the person is unqualified, he can disqualify him up to the day of the election. And watch this. And if he does not have time to reprint the ballots or to strike his name off the ballot, then he has an obligation to post in the precincts a prominent sign declaring that any votes for this person will not count during this election. He can do that up to the day of the election. So don't play crazy. Do your job. Thank God for all you taking time. I know I got on late. I'm getting off of school. I'm tired. I still got stuff to do. Y'all pray for the preacher. I'll probably be doing some more of these in between time. Y'all catch me when you can. I'm Reverend Dr. Leonard Small, and pastor of Litway Missionary Baptist Church. God bless you and keep you. As always, is our prayer. I'm gone.